Hello everyone, welcome back to Grand Prix Nashville 2012. Ben Swartz, Rich Hagan in the commentary box with you once again to bring you all the action from this final round of the first draft of day 2. At the end of this round, the players will get reseated in new pods of 8 based on their Swiss record, and then we will be just 3 rounds away from the top 8. That means at the end of this round, we're going to have a break, show you some pre-recorded stuff while we get through draft number 2. Where straight away you see Willie Edel with Fort Scour starting to fill his graveyard. Ben S, meanwhile, Silver Chase Fox on turn 2.
Interesting that Thought Scour allowed Willie Edel to cast Boneyard Worm. Boneyard Worm, if there were no creatures in Willie's graveyard, would be a 0/0, and it itself would go into the graveyard. So now, thanks to the Armored Scab that Willie was able to put into his graveyard, Boneyard Worm is a 1/1. And seeing those cards, Armored Scab, Thought Scour, Boneyard Worm, Splinter Fright, makes you seem to think that Willie's on this sort of mill myself deck. Splinter Fright is a very, very powerful card in those decks, milling 2 cards every single turn, allowing both Splinter Fright and Boneyard Worm in this case to get larger and larger as the game progresses. Ben Stark, on the other hand, looks to have a blue-white sort of flyers deck. He's got a normal white card in the form of Silver Chase Fox and Voiceless Spirit as a flyer. And of course, since both of Willie's creatures are 1/1s right now, no reason he should block. Willie will mill his 2 cards. Looks like he milled a Silent Departure along with a Grip Tide. So he has access to the flashback on Silent Departure if he needs it.
4 and a blue.
Mind Shrieker for Ben Stark.
Yeah, that's such a fun card.
So suspenseful. I like a little bit of luck. It's like Heretic's Punishment. You're flipping cards over, hoping to get a big drop.
Yeah.
But the flyers right now out of Ben are going to deal a lot of damage in the early turns of this game. Willie already at 14 life, thanks to the Fox and the Voiceless Spirit. And now Ben has an opportunity to get in for more and decide how many times he wants to mill either himself or Willie to pump up and enhance his Mind Shrieker. So that math is going through Ben's head. Now you get a good look at Willie, hoping that his self-mill deck will be able to take him there. So Ben goes ahead and attacks with all of his creatures. Ooh, and Willie ambushes.
But Ben looks like he's at least somewhat at the ready. He's got a Mind Shrieker.
Just once, let his Voiceless Spirit die. The Mind Shrieker's ability put a island to the graveyard so it gets no enhancement, and looks like a Nibelus of the Mist for Ben, post-combat. Willie continues to mill Silent Departure. He's got 2 in his graveyard right now, and still no 5th land to be able to flash them back.
He's got the 2 signature green cards in play for the deck. And we're going to see more.
More mill, a Moldgraph
Scar.
A Moldgraph Monstrosity, and a Forest are milled.
So there's land number 5 for Edel.
So now he has turned on his Silent Departures in his graveyard. He's able to flash this back when he needs to. Unfortunately for Willie, all of Ben's creatures are low mana cost, 2 and 3. So the tempo advantage that you're gaining from Silent Departure isn't as much as compared to if Ben played a Big Angel or like Dearly Departed, a 6 mana card.
Craig Wesco again in the feature match on the back table, having defeated Christian Valenti. He faces Gerard Fabiano for their pod win.
So Nibelus of the Urn trades with the Boneyard Worm. Or Nibelus of the Mist, sorry. I did the same thing you did, which is I saw the urn on the card.
Yeah. So our 2 picks going head-to-head for the win in that pod.
Wesco versus Gerard. I hope.
Yep.
I hope I beat you.
Obviously.
And more so, I hope that Gerard beats Craig.
You're a Gerard Fabiano fan?
Yeah. Think twice for Willie. I mean, I'm a Craig Wesco fan also, but
we all have our favorites.
That Splinter Fright, I'm not exactly how big it is right now. 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe? 5/5 trampler. It's tough to see the entirety of the graveyard.
Plus, it's quite big. It's 14 cards and counting right now. Just going to move it down slightly for us.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe. 5 creatures that are in Willie's graveyard. Ben is counting Willie's library to see how close he is from milling himself out.
It's a way off yet. I mean, 14 cards in the graveyard, 2 creatures, 6 land. That's 22.
Another 4 cards in hand, I believe.
Is it 4?
So it's 26.
Now 3, 25, 26. So there's still plenty left. It's not like he has a curse going on himself.
I mean, he does have a curse going on himself, right?
Well.
But, yes, he only has 14 cards left, but still, 7 turns plus 1 draw step, so...
Yeah.
Or less than 7 turns, rather, because there's a draw step every turn. But 4 turns, I guess? 5 turns?
So Ben is at 15. Willie did 11. And again, 2 very different decks in action. Ben's playing... Not exactly the fair deck, but he's playing the normal deck.
For sure.
Much as Tristan Sommer did in our last round against Reed Duke. And Edel's playing the trick deck, as Reed Duke did last round.
And last round we saw Reed Duke's trick deck defeat the sort of normal deck.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if that same result ends up here. So one of the important things now, the reason why Ben counted Willie's library is he's got Mind Trigger, so he's able to mill 2 to 3 cards a turn using Mind Trigger from Willie's deck. So he's able to aid in milling Willie, and he's getting pretty close. I mean, he's already milled 2 cards. That's another turn off of Willie's mill clock, if you want. How many turns he has until he's got no cards in his library and must draw a card that isn't there and lose the game because of it. Spider spawning is able to pump up the Mind Trigger quite a bit, but Willie has a Snapcaster Mage to grip tide the Mind Trigger, putting it back on the top of Ben's library. So Willie then goes ahead in his upkeep, milling 2 forests. And Silent Departuring away the Fox, allowing him to get in with the Splinter Fright, the Scab, and the Snapcaster Mage. So, the Splinter Fright, a 6/6 now.
Ben certainly has a pretty good idea what's in Willie's deck.
Yep.
You can see it all there. It's like a deck building exercise.
He's got to make it a mental note to understand all the threats in Willie's deck so he can properly sideboard in between games, regardless of the result of this game. Mind Trigger comes back down. Willie still has another Silent Departure. So it seems likely that Willie's going to flashback Silent Departure again, returning the Mind Trigger to hand.
Forbidden Alchemy gone into the graveyard.
But Willie only has 5 cards left in his deck. In his deck.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 of those will go away thanks to Mind Trigger ability. 2 more the following turn, thanks to Splinter Fright. There will still be 1 card left. So even if Ben could survive this attack, which he can't.
Well,
he has Feeling of Dread in his graveyard, which I can't see because his head's in the way. There we go. Feeling of Dread. So he's able to probably survive this attack. There we go. Flashback Feeling of Dread. Tap your Scab and Splinter Fright. Mill you once. Put you to 4 cards. You're going to bounce my Mind Trigger in my hand. I'm going to replay it. Mill you twice more. Putting you to 2 cards. You're going to mill 2 with Splinter Fright and then draw to 0 cards. Is the line of play that Ben wants to happen.
Okay.
Does Willie have something to throw a wrench in that plan?
Silent Departure his own guy, I guess.
Oh, Silent Departure Splinter Fright, right, would do that. That's got to be his only play, but Willie has to be careful because Ben might still be able to come out of nowhere and deal 11 damage with the Mind Trigger. There's so many different angles here. There's the damage race, there's the card race.
It is the top right of your screen right now that makes this such an interesting
Splinter Fright is gigantic right now, right?
Oh, it is, yes.
I believe it's an 8/8 or 9/9.
I would go for Gigantinormous, which is one I don't often break out. But I believe that's the technical scientific term for a Splinter Fright with an entire deck in a graveyard.
I wonder if Willie will see that play of Silent Departuring his own Splinter Fright to make it so that he won't lose. But honestly, that doesn't. It doesn't make a difference, because if he Splinter Frights Mindtreaker, then Ben has to play it and he can only mill twice, and he's still dead because of the Splinter Fright. If he Silent Departures his Splinter Fright, then Ben has 3 mill abilities available to him. He's got 6 mana, so he's able to mill 3 times, get rid of the last 3 cards in his library, and Willie's still dead. I believe there's 3 cards left.
Now, so there's Silent Departure, and Ben goes to pick up Mindtreaker straight away, and when he's like, hang on a minute.
Maybe I can see this play.
I'm going to think about it. And
Yep. He's like, I have to...
It doesn't make any difference. So this is where 2 pros get together and have a little chat about how the game's about to proceed, which I always find
So Ben here needs to draw a land to win, I believe. And there you go. He gets the plains. I think that's going to be enough. He'll have 8 mana at his disposal, mill the 4 cards that are left in Willie's deck. Willie will go to his turn and lose because of decking. And there you see it. Willie's going to concede before showing Ben the rest of his deck.
The rest of his deck, that's a stretch. The rest of his deck. You mean he won't know 1 card, but like 2 land and a card. It's like, wow. Oh, that was very entertaining. So Ben Stark takes the lead. He is, of course, a Pro Tour champion.
Pro Tour Paris.
2011.
I remember one of the first Pro Tour coverage that I watched, the first webcast I watched was Pro Tour Kobe. And it was exciting to see him make top 8. Is your mic on? It was really exciting to see him. He had a great interview before the top 8 that he talked about his affinity deck that he played. Right. But in the end, Masahiro Kuroda defeated Gabriel Nassif in the finals of that event and was the first Japanese Pro Tour champion. It's interesting to see, when I was living in Japan, Masahiro Kuroda show up to the local PTQs in Osaka. He'd bring his daughter along with him.
Wow.
And she would like make little towers out of the dice that he brought.
Yep.
But he's a working man, so it's difficult for him to go and travel to events these days. He'll show up to a tournament here or there, but...
So Ben Stark had those 2 Pro Tour top 8s in 2004. I just looked to Kobe, there was San Diego, where again he made the quarterfinal. And he was kind of faced some pretty tough opposition in those 2 top 8s. Memory serves, it's like Gabriel Nassif in one, and Nikolai Herzog in the other, who obviously went on to win San Diego. Then 3 more sort of top 32, top 16s. Nagoya, when he came back to the game in 2011, he was 17th. Worlds in San Francisco last year, 14th. 3rd in the Player of the Year race last year, of course, on the back of his triumph in the standard top 8 of Pro Tour Paris. I can't really remember, what was that deck that all the Channel Fireballers were playing? They had this little white...
It was Burn, right?
No. It was like little white flyers, like Lingering Souls, but not Lingering Souls. With swords. Core Sword.
Sword, there we go. Cowboyd. Cowboyd, of course, was the deck that dominated that Pro Tour. They had 4 Channel Fireball members in top 8? 5?
Well, let's see. There was Rietzel's in that top 8. Chapin was in that top 8, not for the Channel Fireball. There was Martel against Stark in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
Luis missed out in the last round.
So did Owen.
Losing to Rietzel. I believe Martel beat Owen
down
the stretch.
Chapin beat Owen in the penultimate round.
Oh, was it? Okay.
For winning in.
Right. Yeah, they're pretty extraordinary. And then, of course, on the Saturday, Brad Nelson became Player of the Year.
Yep.
It's a good weekend for Channel 5. Pretty much any Pro Tour weekend's a good weekend for Channel 5. I refer you to Pro Tour Honolulu just a few short weeks ago, where I believe they had the 1st and 2nd.
Or even at Worlds previous year, where they had 4 members, right? They had Luis, they had Josh Arthur-Layton, they had Conley Woods.
Yeah.
And I'm missing one person. Who's the 4th member?
Oh, stop it. Don't ask questions like that on a Sunday morning. Conley Woods,
Luis, Josh Arthur-Layton, Paulo Vitor Damarosa.
Oh, he's quite good, yeah.
I was thinking of Americans only, even though
we believe he's functionally American.
Yeah, him and Martin are American.
No. Martin User's Czech. Paolo's American. But Martin,
this discussion already?
Martin User is clearly from the Czech Republic.
We talk about that in Hiroshima. I'm just saying.
We seem to be getting comments from the cheap seats from Mr. Nate Price, who somehow managed to avoid being on camera all weekend thus far.
And he's doing the most important job, making sure that
hitting the mute button.
Not frequently enough.
Apparently, not frequently enough, he says. So it's 1-0 to Ben Stark here, gearing up for game 2. And I guess when you do play against a Burning Vengeance deck, or a Spider Spawning deck, or a variation on that, which here is the straight up, well, I've got the Split of Fright and the the Boneyard Worm deck.
Mill myself.
Yeah, self-mill. That's where having sideboard cards really comes into its own, because, let's face it, you're playing all the quality removal anyway to face whatever creatures are there. But when you find this sort of different attack on the format coming at you, that's where you want to look to your graveyard and go, oh, it turns out I've got a thing that exiles your graveyard. You know, I don't expect Dipper's Cage or whatever it is.
Purify the Grave.
Purify the Grave, yeah. So that's where your kind of mid to late picks can sometimes pay real dividends in a draft.
Making sure that you've got those sideboard cards against those, fringe, those weird decks. So here the action has started. No Thought Scour into Boneyard Worm for Willie this game. And it looks like Ben also has a slow start. Willie will start things off. Armored Scab. Milling his Splinter Fright. And a Boneyard Worm, it looks like.
Oh, really? So both the big ones have gone?
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's 2 creatures in the graveyard, so... He'll get in for 1, dropping Ben down to 19. And Ben at end of turn will cast Midnight Haunting. That card's so good. It's too bad that Lingering Souls overshadows it a little bit.
You wonder if Midnight Haunting got a bit jealous.
Yeah.
When, I was so well positioned. People were playing with me all the time.
Oh, you gave me flashback, and I'm no longer wanted anymore?
Thanks.
So Nephalia Seakite will ambush one of the spirit tokens.
And out will come one of my favorite cards in the set, Stormbound Geist.
Usually you can't ever have too much of a good flying creature, but having too many Stormbound Geists is not necessarily good. I had a deck with 4 of them, and then I played them, I was attacking, and my opponent started playing ground guys. Big ground guys. And then I was attacking for 4, he was attacking for 5. I was attacking for 4, he was attacking for 8. I couldn't hold back and block. The Stormbound guys can't block ground creatures. Non-flyers, that is.
Sure.
Looks like Willie, in the meantime, has cast a Sound Departure on that Stormbound Geist. And Ben goes ahead and Bonds of Faiths the Nephilia Seakite. So, let's see how Willie handles. At end of turn, he's casting the Forbidden Alchemy. But still no swamp we've seen out of him that he can use to flash it back.
One of the interesting things you see good players do against very inexperienced players, so I'm not talking really at a GP Day 2 level, I mean where you see the guy who's played in 10 Pro Tours playing against someone at their first pre-release, so that kind of disparity. You will often see the better player adjusting to an unusual plan far quicker than the inexperienced player can spot that there has been a change of plan. So the point at which Ben Stark in game 1 stops trying to win the game by putting Willie to 0 and starts deciding that actually the resource that matters are the cards in the library.
Yep.
And sometimes you can just, if you miss that shift by 1 turn, that is enough to discover that you are actually dead, when if you'd seen it 1 turn earlier, you could have started playing differently.
Surely in that last game, if Ben didn't immediately start milling with Mindstreaker when he realized that it was important, if he just used Mindstreaker on himself 1 more time, then Willie would have won that last game.
Elder of Laurels is a very powerful card for Willie.
That card is so good, giving +X to a creature equal to the number of creatures you control.
And he's not that far away from a double activation because it's not a tap ability, it's just a straightforward mana sink. Dump as much mana into it as you want.
Looks like he'll get in. No fear of that Nimbus of the Mist thanks to Elder of Florals, but no pumps.
So he's got stuff to do.
Yep. And looks like Ben's going to go to his turn and attack in with all of his guys.
And we have something from Willie here.
Thought Scour himself, putting Silent Departure and Forest in.
And drawing a card. Looks like Willie's got Snapcaster Mage in hand.
So he wants something juicy in the graveyard. He's already has a Griptide.
Okay.
But
So
looks like
Thought Scour an island. Hit the grave.
it's a lot of Thought Scours in Willie's deck.
Yeah, this is a very, very fine example of the self-mill. He does have pretty much everything, apart from arguably a Spider Spawn. But
He does have a Spider Spawn in his deck.
all right, okay.
Willie uses Crushing Vines on Nimbus of the Mist here to take out the 2/1 flyer. And save himself 2 points of damage. Now he's really winning the race, Willie. Especially since he's got Elder Florals.
Burden of Guilt for the Elder.
But Elder of Florals can still use its ability to pump up the Armored Scab if it so chooses. I mean, Ben's still at 12, 3 creatures in play. That's only 3 hits in 1 activation each time to destroy Ben.
So Edel has 2 spare mana if he wants to do an activation.
But he needs to make sure that he's saving mana for things he might want to cast during Ben's turn. If he does truly have that Snapcaster in hand. He wants to plan when would be the best time to use that Snapcaster.
Makeshift Mauler. Willie says my Splinter Fry can go away.
Yeah, there's no need for it.
I don't like it anymore. It killed me in game 1. Kind of.
Oh, wow.
Frightful
Delusion
Delusion
on the Scab. Willie saw the top card of his library, though, because in haste he started flipping it over to put it in the graveyard. So I think the judge will force him to shuffle his library.
Ew, that's awkward.
I mean, it's so natural, right? When you play one of those Scab cards, you immediately start reaching to your library to flip over cards, but it looks like the judge stepped in, nothing ended up happening. Frightful Illusion is such a blowout when you can get both parts of it off, when you can both counter the spell and have them discard an important spell, but it's still just a force spike, just counter unless your opponent plays 1. So in many cases it's underwhelming, especially when you get to the late game. But here we saw Ben use it to great effect. Ben's really got to calculate, do the math, crunch the numbers here. He can't attack with... He needs to know whether or not he wants to attack with that Spirit Token. He can't necessarily just send it in because Willie could attack back with the Makeshift Mauler and the Armored Scab, pump up his creatures using Elder Florals, give one of them +4/+4. If he were to play another creature or two, Ben might be dead.
I can tell you that we have a Reed Duke ready and waiting. And by the way, still undefeated. Might be nice to find out how you make an undefeated draft deck on day 2. We'll see what we can do with that.
Especially one that wasn't a sealed deck that was handed to you with 2 Vault of the Archangel.
Yeah, not that we're jealous or bitter or anything about the Sorin and double Vault of the Archangel deck he got handed yesterday.
Ben getting in for another 3.
So right now the viewership is shifted firmly towards supporting Ben's start. It's like, come on Ben, win. Let's see Reed in action.
And he'll play another Nimbus of the Mist. Let's see.
Only with 2 cards. graveyard full of basically half his deck. Probably around about the 10 cards left in his library mark.
Yep. I think he's got about 20 cards in his graveyard, about 10 or so in play. Oh wow. Ben's going to attack in with a Stormbound Geist and Spirit Token, and before Willie can declare his blockers, he's going to cast Naturalize on the Bonds of Faith, targeting his Nephalia's Sea Kite.
So that's gone.
It's going to allow him to block, but before he can, Ben's going to cast Feeling of Dread.
Yeah.
And he's going to be able to use it next turn for flashback in order to have it so Willie can't attack necessarily with all of his creatures. Ben does 3 damage here, drops Willie to 3. He's able to deal 3 damage next turn. That would be the game for Ben, but Willie has to crunch the numbers. Because he's got Elder of Laurels, he can put, +X on any of the creatures.
Anywhere it goes.
And since Ben's only at 2 life, Willie's going to be attacking with all 4 of his creatures next turn. Well, 2 of the 4. Ben can only block 1 of them. Willie most likely will be able to block, or will be able to pump up the one that's unblocked. He doesn't have a mana next turn to activate Burden of Guilt.
Sure.
On the Elder of Laurels.
Yeah.
So Ben has to be really careful what he does here. I'm not sure if there's a way.
I was going to say, it doesn't even look like it's being careful. It looks like the way you've drawn it up, it doesn't really matter.
Sorry, that was not Ben's turn. That was Willie's turn. Yeah, so
Ben at 2, Willie at 6.
Ben going to get in for 1.
Attack for 1. Oh, that was just a forest on the floor. And we're going to see some flashback.
Willie's deck would be a great deck to have Burning Vengeance in.
Greedy.
So now Willie... His Elder of Laurels, I believe, is untapped, right? Ben hasn't spent any mana this turn.
Yeah, not yet. Silent Departure coming up. Yes. He is Feeling of Dread. The Nephalia Sea Kite and Makeshift Mauler. Mana for that. Ranger's Guile says, that's hexproof, and it's 1-1.
We'll go to a game 3 here.
Sorry, Reduke fans, he's gone away again. We may get him yet.
He went to go watch his friend Gerard Fabiano in the other feature match face off against Craig Wesco.
Yeah, you can see them on the back table there. Not sure whether they're actually done or whether they're heading for maybe a game 3. So Willie Edel, who you see there, came to prominence really in 2006. He was part of Team Rala Pumba alongside Celso Zamper Jr. and Palavita Dama de Rosa, a Pro Tour Charleston where they were runners-up. Behind the team that included Tomohiro Kaji and Tomohiro Saito.
Shota Yasuoka.
That's right. And then P.T. Kobe the same year, runner-up behind Jan Moritz Merkel of Germany. So the young 17-year-old won, I believe that was his debut Pro Tour in Kobe, and then again, individual honours, top 8 of Pro Tour Geneva 2007, won by another chess player, bringing us back to something we talked about earlier, Mike Rohn of the United States, H1. So that's Willie Edel, also a couple of appearances for the Brazilian national team. You know, I really thought Brazil were going to win Worlds in 2008 at Memphis, but in the end, Paul Cheon, Mike Jacob, and Sam Black took it down. Brazil ended up finishing 3rd at that event. So we gear up for game 3. Again, they've been very good matches so far today. We've seen Reed Duke advance his continued path. Don't know yet about Shuhei Nakamura, how he did in his third match of the day.
I'm curious if his mindset has also changed from the beginning of the weekend where he just wanted to make top 16 to get a couple points, to last night where he's like, maybe top 8's okay. When we were at dinner with him, he was saying, top 8's okay. Maybe if he wins this match, 3-0's his first draft. Okay. Champion this time.
Champion, yeah. It's been a while for Shuhei.
And Shuhei is able to 3-0 this draft along with Redo, which might bring a tie to our bracket because Shuhei was one of the only players, I think, in this draft with one loss.
Yeah.
So he was able to play against one of the other undefeateds, even though they had a loss.
Yep.
So there might be a tie in our brackets, Rich.
So, in North America, they don't allow ties in things, do they?
No. Do they allow ties in Britain?
We play cricket. We play 5 days for a draw.
That sounds miserable.
Well, it's fantastic. It's one of the great things in sport. You get to the end of 5 days, the time's running out, it's 5:27, there's 1 over to go, 1 wicket remaining.
What do you think about snooker? You like snooker?
Snooker's clearly fabulous. Why wouldn't you play the best of 35 frames to declare a world champion?
No, my brother Noah is a big fan of snooker.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm right there. Noah, of course, who is a Pro Tour top 8 competitor from San Juan?
San Juan.
Yes, I win. Good. Obviously have some memory left.
He beat Jeremy Neenan in the top 8 the first round, but lost to Paulo Vitor Damarosa in the semifinals.
That happens to people a lot.
Paulo, I think, he won that event, that's right.
Yeah, playing Guillaume Matignon.
Yep.
In the final.
Players get a look at their opening hand.
Mm-hmm. We gear up for game 3 between Ben Stark on the left and Willie Edel on the right. Many hundreds of lifetime pro points between the two.
Willie Edel is an interesting character. He took a break after his first couple Pro Tour top 8s because he was still working a full-time job then and has sort of devoted himself to helping own a card store in Brazil. And so he's been traveling around partially in order to get cards for his store, but also to play in these events because he still has the competitive spirit.
Yeah.
Looks like Ben is going to go ahead and take a mulligan. Willie's still considering his hand, whether or not it's mulligan worthy. It's interesting. Ben Stark is really un-American in the sense that he likes to mulligan. The American players really, really don't like mulligan.
Really? Is that a cultural thing? I'd not...
Luis, does he ever mulligan? I think it's more of a Channel Fireball thing. Luis really doesn't like to mulligan. Conley doesn't like to mulligan. So they, when they get together with the other people, they teach them not to mulligan as much. Martin Juzza used to love mulliganing. He used to love mulliganing more than any other human.
And then he joined Channel Fireball and they kicked it out of him?
Yeah, he mulligans less and less. Same with many of Paulo. He used to love mulliganing more than anybody else. Luis says this is a keep. One land, let's go. Let's see how this works.
Let's go.
But wow. Ben Stark, sticking to his guns. He's a really analytic player.
Yeah.
So let's see if his 6-card hand is any better for him.
Yeah, well, it's enough to keep. So we're away with planes. We already see a Ranger's Guile in Willie Edel's hand that was instrumental in game 2.
And Ben has Stormbound Geist.
At precisely the right time for it. And I guess with Elder of Laurels. So I guess that's part of the reason Willie kept what looks like a mono hand. Elder of Laurels is so powerful. A couple creatures in it are close to unbeatable. He's drawn into an island there.
Ooh, that's very good for him.
That is a very good draw. Now a Simeon Priest. Down. Willie will send the Elder.
Elder of Laurels, of course, a human, so Ben can't use Abyssinian Priest to tap it, but he can use it on Arbored Scab here, the zombie card.
So we see a Boneyard Worm in the Boneyard. So Nafali Seakite's gone there.
Yep, no more ambushing allowed for Willie this game. I mean, Ben's seen almost all, if not all, of Willie's deck. Yes. He knows, I believe there's only one Nafali Seakite in Willie's deck, so...
Yeah.
The only cards he has to be worried about at instant speed are things like Ranger's Guile, Snapcaster Mage, Riptide, Thought Scour into one of a card that Snapcaster could Snapcast back.
Yeah. So Elder comes in, you see Silver Chase Fox now down for Ben as well. Here's a Thought Scout for Willie. I believe that's Think Twice may have gone in at the top there.
Yep, and Vorpede. Well, Willie plays Villagers of Estwald.
Huh?
I really like these blue-white decks that take advantage of cards like Sound Departure and Feeling of Dread, these tempo cards, because it really showcases the power of tempo. I think this whole block really showcases the power of tempo.
Well, Raphael Levy, of course, won the opening salvo of the season in, not quite this one, but back in January by going blue-white tempo, Feeling of Dread, and like you say, Sound Departure, and just get everything out the way, and Abyssinian Priest, tap down, and the Howl Pack doesn't get to go anywhere.
Yep. Very similar to Ben's deck here. And it looks like Willie in this game is just playing sort of a normal blue-green deck. There's not too much of his graveyard theme working right now. Mm-hmm. He does have a Think Twice in the graveyard that he can flash back, but there's no Sound Departures out of him yet.
He's basically, here's an Elder of Laurels, I've just pumped it.
Just normal green creatures, let's go.
Giant Growth, my guy.
Nibelus of the Mist will tap down the Armored Scav, but
no, it won't.
Ranger's Guile from Willie will make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben really wanted that to happen so he could get in for an extra 2 with his Silver Chase Fox, but alas. He'll be limited to only attacking with the Stormbound Geist this turn.
Did you just use the word alas?
Yeah.
Well done. It's one of the most underused words in the English language.
I use it all the time.
But alas, that was not acceptable to Willie.
Ben mulling over his possible attacks, planning for upcoming turns. That's one of the things that it's tough to do when you first start playing a game, and even when you've been playing the game for a while, is to plan ahead your turns, plan ahead your attacks. Think about, what life total your opponent will be at after this attack, where you want the board to be, and then make decisions based on what could happen a couple turns in advance. It's really tough to do that.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of thought. You can see Ben trying to make his decision here, but it's really, really important to moving up to that higher level in this game. Ben taking his time. Really just hoping he doesn't have anything more. Ben has, a couple more creatures, a couple more flyers, some tricks. It's going to be tough for Willie.
So Ben sends the Stormbound Geist, which is still a 2-2. The Undying hasn't featured at any point. Whenever it's been in play, it's just been a 2-2 flyer and has never rematerialized as its bigger Undying brother.
Yeah, it's rare that you see Stormbound Geist come back with Undying, right? Usually you don't want to block it and make it more powerful. I mean, that's the case for all Undying creatures, but it's not like you can hold it back and block a creature most of the time.
Yes, it's very proactive.
Elder of Laurels getting in again, this time unpumped. And Willie will cast Spider Spawning. 1, 2, 3 creatures.
So it's not utterly devastating, although obviously there's flashback to come along later at some point.
It's still very good. I mean, the 2 toughness on the Spider tokens, along with the reach, really make it tough for any aggressive deck, any deck to deal with, even if there's only 3 spiders. But if there's 8 or 9, if you're a BDM and you do it lots and lots of times.
Yeah. Oh, so there's that Fiend Hunter just arrived, I believe it is. Yep, so Elder of Laurels is gone, and that really changes things. Because Willie basically won game 2 on the back of Elder of Laurels. And now it's gone, and the remaining team doesn't look so hot.
No. With Elder of Laurels gone, they're just 1, 2 spiders. They're still good. They're still able to double block and get good value, but it's nothing without the power of Elder. It's not nothing without the power of Elder of Laurels, but it's a lot less without the power of Elder of Laurels. So Ben makes his attack with Stormbound Geist, and Willie will Forbidden Alchemy. Looking over those 4 cards, it's interesting to see that we haven't seen Willie draw his Swamp in these games to allow him to flashback Forbidden Alchemy yet. he also, I'm not completely sure if he actually has a swamp, but he would also be able to flash back spider spawning if he did. So it looks like he chose his card and passes the turn back to Ben. And looks like Willie will triple block the Stormbound Geist to destroy it, but it will come back thanks to Undying. And now post-combat, Ben will play a transform card, a double face card off screen. Let's see what it is. It's 2 white mana, so I have to assume it's a... I can't see what card it is. What card Ben played it. Yes, a Loyal Cathar. That's what I had to expect. But.
So 7 creatures on the table now for Ben. Against 4 for Willie.
I think Willie is still a little bottlenecked because he only has 1 island.
Yeah. Tap down the Howl Pack. 3 mana.
Crushing
Reach
Vines
out.
on the Stormbound Geist.
Mm-hmm. Get that dead.
No attacking with it today.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to thank Reed Duke for waiting very patiently for us as these two continued to grind away. They weren't as efficient as he was.
So Ben counting up the damage he has. He's going to, end of turn, tap 2 creatures with Feeling of Dread.
Mm-hmm.
Untap, flash it back, attack in for 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus the Feed Hunter.
Willie's looking at his hand.
That's game.
Shakes the hand. And that is Ben Stark victorious. Let's get Ben Swartz out of here. Let's get Reed Duke in here.